And you are live.
Welcome, everyone, to our meeting of the Annapolis Human Relations Commission. We do have a quorum present of commissioners, as well as several other individuals, including Tricia Hopkins from the Office of Human Resources, and also Claudia Barber from the Office of Human Resources. Joining us this evening as well is Toni Strong-Pratt, community activist, and she's going to be joining us for a conversation about the possibility of the commission introducing a proposal to sponsor a town hall meeting about issues facing the city in public housing, Section 8 housing, and other subsidized housing. And Toni is with us this evening, so I'd like to have a very special greeting for her as well. Thank you, Toni, for joining us. As per the way we usually operate, we have a guest speaker. We so-called flip the agenda and give that person an opportunity to speak almost first. One item of business that we do take up is the approval of the minutes from our December meeting. Those were sent to you by email. And so I'm asking if there are any additions or corrections to the minutes. Hearing none, the minutes shall stand as presented by common consent. So we will come back for some of the other items later. I'd first like, though, to turn the podium over to Toni Strong-Pratt, to give us some thoughts that you have about the issue of holding a town hall meeting on issues related to public housing and other forms of subsidized housing in the city of Annapolis. So, Toni, it's yours.
Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Hope your day is well. Mine is going well. I think one of the questions I have for you guys is why now? Why a town hall now? What have you been hearing that warrants you to even think about having a town hall around housing in your city?
John? I continue to read in the Capitol and elsewhere, and just in discussions, with the Caucus of African American leaders, that they're continuing problems. It's not that there's a new problem that I see. That there's a crisis, obviously, and other available housing that would allow people to move out if they chose. And I think it's a good idea just to begin communication on what recommendations they might have.
Okay. Anybody else? So I have another question. Are you in any way connected to the Housing Commission in the city? Housing and Human Welfare Commission?
No. Mike, go ahead. No. Not to my knowledge. Yeah.
Is this a one of the committees of City Council?
Yeah, that's one of your commissions. Yes, DeJuan Gay is the chairperson, I do believe.
There is that is correct. We actually do have a connection with them because that is the committee that vets the confirmation by City Council of all members of the Human Relations Commission. So the appointments go from the mayor through that committee. So from that standpoint, we do have an important connection with them. The second reason we've got an important connection with them is that the Human Relations Commission has statutory authority in city code to deal with fair housing issues. We are the proverbial point people for anything related to fair housing. If there's a violation of fair housing, and it reaches a complaint stage, it goes through us. We have the same authority in the area of fair housing that the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights has. We have substantial authority on it. So for those two reasons, that committee becomes pretty important to us in terms of the work that we do. That's so I would say that's part of the reason that I think the commission would be interested in pursuing a town hall meeting. The second is that you've got a very large population in the city of Annapolis who live in one of the public housing units in the city, who live in or reside in the properties that's run by the housing authority of the city of Annapolis. The commission did a town hall. It wasn't quite a town hall. It was a hearing that we held several years ago at Asbury United Methodist Church as a result of a complaint which we received from the Residents Association at the various housing units, public housing units around the city, and it was extremely well attended.
Okay.
300 people attended. For all those reasons, I think that this is a topic that's of great concern, and there's a very large constituency of residents of the city are affected by it.
Absolutely.
So those are I guess those are just some reasons that I would extend.
Okay. So I was trying to get a little bit of background on how connected you are. This has been citywide, countywide, statewide, but mainly citywide for a long time now. I'm not sure if you know, but a few years ago, the city was sued by Hacker residents for inhumane living conditions that would violate fair housing. Not only that, we are dealing right now in real time with a housing complex that was built not even 2 years ago.
Right.
That
exactly.
Over 6, 7, 8 residents have been displaced in the excess of 11 months because they have mold in their units, only to go back to houses and to have a sewage leak and be displaced again. Those residents have not gone back to their homes. They have been moved to another part of the city that also has mold. So they've been moved out of one unit with mold into another unit with mold. We've also now have a pending, lawsuit that a man died in one of the housing complex because of mold. So we have a standing issue in our city with residents that are facing all kind of fair housing issues. And I'm kind of a little taken aback because the Human Relations Commission hasn't been involved. Does the Human Relations Commission go to any of the housing and human housing and what is the one? Human welfare, the one.
Yeah, housing and human relations committee, I think they are. Or is it human welfare?
Does anybody attend those meetings from the Human Relations Commission? Because it would really be helpful. Just I guess about 6 or 7 months ago, they had landlords subpoenaed to that commission to answer questions on all of these unfair treatments of residents in our city. I can name a few. You have Hacker, you have Harbor House, you have Eastport, you have Robinwood, you have Bay Ridge Gardens, you have Wilborn Estates, you have Newtown 20, you have Admiral Oaks, you have Allen's Apartments. All of those residents are facing fair housing, inhumane conditions. So if you're asking me, do you need a town hall? I would say like yesterday. But my concern is, just like everything else that has been happening in the city, is that we get people out, we get them to expose what's going on with them. They get exploited, only not to have anybody follow up and nothing's done. We're spinning wheels. So my question to you would be, first of all, if you have a town hall, what would be the follow-up?
Well, if the commission held a town hall meeting or anything along those lines, Again, we've got the authority in city code to do that. And we've used that authority. In terms of follow-up, that's prescribed really also in the functions that are outlined for the commission in city code. And that is specifically, we can prepare reports, recommendations that would go to city council. In this case, it would go to all members of the council, not just the members of the housing committee. If we wanted to, we could limit it to the housing committee, but I think the commission would want, especially if it had recommendations, to send it through to the entire council. Because housing committee, I think, has 3 statutory members, I believe, and you've got 8 aldermen and the mayor. So I think for that reason, the commission, if it prepared a report, which I think it would prepare a report, we've always prepared a report after we've held a public thing, it would go to them. Then after that, it becomes a matter of what the council wishes to do on it.
So that's my concern.
And that, I know, yeah, I mean, I know that's a concern of yours in terms of the difficulty of moving council members along. But you're sort of in a position when you're dealing with city council, you always have to remember who are elected. And those are the individuals that basically govern the city, those council members, along with the mayor. So the issue then becomes important, I think, for several things to happen. One, I think there needs to be, and I think this needs to be arranged in advance, that there is adequate publicity that is given to the event in terms of not only before the event has occurred, but also in terms of press coverage. And that's a challenge now. The capital of today is not the capital of several years ago. Staff has been cut back substantially. So you have to really work on getting some type of a coverage for it so that at least it's out in the public. And the second thing you do is you've got to mobilize constituents. If we hold a hearing and we found there's tremendous dissatisfaction throughout the units, the commission could ask the housing committee to hear from them, to organize sessions at city council in which individuals came in with their concerns. Of course, to do that, the commission doesn't have the authority to make the council do that. That's up to the council.
Mr. Keller, so with all due respect, everything that you said has been done, right? Okay. So my concern is this has gone to the city council. We have mobilized people to come to the city council to speak on what's going on, and still nothing has been done. So I would caution you that if you are going to have another town hall, you have some direct things that you can offer the constituents who've already have come forth, who already have exposed themselves, because it's just like exposing myself over and over and over and getting nothing done. So I came here to actually support, but now I don't know if I'm in support of the town hall, because you are limited in what you can do because we've already done it. So my real concern is now going back and telling the constituent, we may be able to have a town hall, but I'm sorry to say we have to go through the same people that we went through before.
So I wanted to offer a few ideas, if I could, Mike.
Sure, go ahead, Linda.
So I went to the hearings last year where, at least 15 people came into City Hall, to the council, to the HR or the Housing and HR Commission, whatever they're called, committee.
Housing and Human Welfare.
Yes, Housing and Human Welfare. Thank you.
Yep.
And what I watched happen was people testifying on their trauma. It's very traumatic and upsetting and scary because people are afraid to actually speak up about what is going on with them because they're afraid that there may be some sort of retribution from their landlords, but they did anyhow. It was heartbreaking, some of the stories, including like mice crawling around people's apartment with babies, and it was horrifying, actually. So they did that, and then the committee subpoenaed the landlords, and what my interpretation is, and Tony can, feel free to correct me, is that the landlords tried to address singular issues, even though there were multiple issues of the same kind, right, with the people that were testifying. So they tried to address and keep things singular. They said they addressed them, and then the committee's hands were kind of tied because they were given some documentation that, oh, we called in somebody to take care of the mice in this apartment. But the issues are that they're still recurring, right? And so they don't look at the systemic issues. Instead, they try to individualize those issues again and again. And so that's the issue, including the fact that I heard from an alderman that he feels like his hands are tied being on that committee because there's only so much he feels like he can do. And he's been getting pushback. So it's really I feel like we have to go bigger, right? You talked about publicity before the event and getting people to testify, but really, to me, what is the support after? And I think that's where we need to make a real plan as to how we're going to publicize and how we stay at it. And do we think about, meeting with city council, testifying at the council meetings, and continuing to testify until we hear that there is actually a plan and that it's being activated, there's action. Do we continue to find out if they are doing what they're saying they're doing? Do we keep in touch with the residents to find out if indeed there's change happening? To me, it's a long-term commitment. If we really are going to do this, it's not just one event, I guess, is what I'm thinking about. And then we can continue to do publicity around it as well. And there's lots of different ways you can do publicity. And I don't know if you know this, but I'm a PR person, so I have a press list. But I think that our commission needs to understand it's a long-term commitment. It's not going to change overnight. And what ends up happening that I see is that people say they're going to support, they have an event of some sort, and then everybody thinks it's over. And the systemic issues are not being.
I think it's important that we all take a look at this, because adequate quality housing leads to some of the things that we're seeing now. It leads to crime. It leads to gun violence. It's hopelessness. When you are living in houses like some of our constituents and neighbors are living in, and they have no out, it messes with your psyche. And we're wondering why our city is facing so much crime and so much public safety issues. And we need to look into housing.
Yeah, Chuck?
Well, Tony, am I correct that the city is supposed to inspect public housing and require corrections, and that's not being done? Is that right?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
So what happens is they're supposed to inspect and they're supposed to correct.
Right.
But a lot of times when the city does their regular inspections, they come in your house, they look in your refrigerator to see if the light bulb is working, see if the smoke detectors are working, and they walk out.
What about mold?
Well, they don't check for that. So from what we're told is they aren't licensed to check for that. So what happens is when somebody calls me or somebody says they have mold, we have to call down to planning and zoning. They have to come out and they inspect. And usually if they don't see something noticeable, they'll go back to the landlord and say, well, you need to check. But most of the time, the majority of the time, if you have been following, when they come out, it's so many houses that have been condemned because of visible mold. We're talking black mold. We're talking rodent infestation. And we're not talking, hey, a mouse came in my house. We're talking about 7 and 8 mice that are being caught on mouse traps. We're talking mice that are in babies' beds. So we are talking, look,
Jesus.
we are living in unwarranted conditions. Just today, a resident called and had mold. She had been reporting this for months. The city came in and condemned the unit on site. But not only that, they reported a sewage leak that was going into people's homes. Feces just running all over the community. This is what we're dealing with. And it's like everybody is turning a blind eye. Well, the last I knew, the city licensed these landlords to be here. So if you are in city code, either you get fined until you get it correct, or you have to leave. But something has to give. Because if you think you're seeing crime now, if we allow this to go like this, we haven't seen anything yet.
Now, it is the same, the difference between private landlords and HACA. Is there any difference in terms of their ability to comply?
So those are considered private-public partnerships. That's where all the public housing is moving to. So what happens is a private developer owned a portion, a HACA owned a portion. In most cases in the city, the private investor has the vested interest, which means they own 1-2% more. So they are responsible. So to answer your question, the housing complex that was just built less than 2 years ago is a public-private partnership. So yes, they are aware, and it's no better. So Clay Street is a public-private partnership.
Mhm.
So no, it's insane. And I would encourage you, as the Human Relation Committee, maybe you take a trip and you go and visit some of these neighborhoods, because I really think you really should be in tune to what's going on, to what you are responsible for.
I'd agree with that. And Mike,
And
it may make sense before, instead of having a town hall, to ask the housing committee, or perhaps the mayor or other aldermen, to come and explain how they're responding to these issues.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I can tell you, being a housing advocate and being right in the midst of this and in the trenches with these residents, I can tell you an incident. I was away on vacation, and a Hispanic lady called me in Florida, and I was on the phone till 12 o'clock at night. The woman woke up, she had water up to her ankles in her kitchen. And we didn't get her out of that place, and had a child in there. We didn't get her out of that place until 12 a.m.
Wow.
So these are the things, and it's in predominantly brown and Black neighborhoods. And it's like nobody is caring. This will not happen in downtown Annapolis. And I'm just going to be real. This will not happen in West Street. This will not happen in Eastport. So why are we okay with it happening in these other areas? If we are going to be a commission and we're going to be effective, we have to take on the hard things. And that means if we need to go as a commission and call the city council in for a meeting and say enough is enough, then that's what we have to do, because these are drastic measures.
Mike, do we have authority to ask the housing committee or other members of the city council to come and say what they're doing?
Are you
I think
asking me?
I think my answer is that I think that it would be good if we had concrete information that we could pass on to them, saying that we were invited by the residents associations of this particular unit to come and actually visually see what is going on in these units. That we would get an invitation from the residents councils to come. And then collect the information, and then ask to meet with the committee, saying that the commission, responding to the requests from residents, has done this study, and that's what we'll call it, a study, and that we'd like to meet with you to present what we have found. can we make them meet with us? Of course
No,
not.
but
And
that would
that's
make more
why-
sense than a town hall to me right now.
But we could go that route. But we would need to we would have to hear from the resident councils if, you know, there's a problem here. They would need to articulate what we've just heard from Tony, and there would have to be specific things that they would be showing us.
Well, sir,
The commission can respond to that, but I think this is one of those cases where I think we would need to have the support of the support of the residents councils, and the residents councils. I believe all of the housing units have residents councils.
Mike Keller, absolutely not. All of them do not have resident councils. That's also an issue. But what I can tell you, if you want concrete proof, you need to ask for the videos from the city council. You can ask for the videos from the housing commission development. You can ask them for pictures, because that's proof. Those are the residents that reside in those communities. They have the documented pictures. If you want pictures, I can send you all the pictures you need. But no, every housing complex does not have a resident council. Absolutely not.
Who are the other two members? Dwan Gay is the chair. Who are the other two members of the
Rome
housing?
Schaudemeyer
And Ellie
and
Tier.
Ellie.
Yeah.
And I actually went to their Zoom meeting. It was last week, I believe. And it was intense, just all of the stuff that they are talking about and things they are trying to address and bills that they are considering that they don't feel like they have support for. It was a lot. And you can watch those Zoom recordings of their meetings, just like we have recordings of our meetings. And you can, hear about all of it.
And they have been very helpful. I will say that that commission has been very helpful. But where we get into issues is when we go in front of the city council.
Okay, what kind of issues do you get into when you go before the city council?
Nobody does anything. They sit there and they talk on their phones. They look on their computers, and they're disrespectful to the residents who are coming there, pouring their houses out pouring their voices out and their issues out about how they're living.
Right.
Nothing has been done. Oh, we need to do something. We need to take care of this. But it never gets taken care of until it's those places that I mentioned. Until people who look like us are affected. That's when it's taken care of.
You made reference, Tony, to having a large number of pictures and that type of thing. Has that been shared with the members of the housing committee? I'm trying not to be too rhetorical here, but I'm trying to get at what exactly has been done.
Mr. Keller, if you know me, if you research anything about me, pictures have been shared with them. Pictures have been shared on Facebook. If you're my friend on Facebook, you've probably seen the pictures.
He doesn't do social media. He doesn't do social media. So
yes,
Yeah,
the pictures,
right.
the pictures shared. Pictures have been shared with all council members. The pictures have been shared with the Human and Welfare Commission. The Human and Welfare Commission has been in some of those houses. So yes, my concern is that you guys as a commission don't know much about this.
I'd agree.
yeah,
and
I
that
feel like we need to do better with that. That's before we go have a town hall. We need to educate ourselves, and the fact that we don't necessarily have an active relationship with the housing committee. I think we should maybe think about how we can have a relationship with them so that we're in the loop with them as well. And then how do we meet residents? Right? How do we get in communities and talk to people and find out what's going on and build relationships with residents in the communities, because they should be on this commission, on our commission.
Well, lots of good suggestions too.
I wouldn't have fostering that, but I will not foster that if you guys are going to do the same thing that everybody else is doing.
Understood.
Because so I would be a team player with you to do that. That's what I'm here for. But I will not continue to expose people to continue to get raped over and over and over again and don't get a solution.
Well, I, for one, would, if there is an opportunity to visit the projects with no promises, because that's not, you know, we have not done. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, Tony, that we don't have the knowledge or the ability to snap our fingers and make stuff happen. But
Absolutely.
But I would certainly like to do the homework and know more about the conditions they're facing.
Now, let me ask this question, Tony, and again, I would remind everyone this is being recorded and it is in the public sphere in terms of comments that are made and the like. And I say it mainly because the question I'm going to ask you, Tony, is I presume that you've had conversations with Alderman Gay and Alderman Chandlemeyer and Alderwoman Tierney. Am I correct on that, making that assumption?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. And it would be also my sense that they were probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they were, knowing the three of them as I do, that they were sympathetic and were listening, but felt that they didn't have the necessary support from other members of the council on these issues. Is that a correct assumption that I'm making, or is it not a correct assumption? I'm just.
Well, I think you need to ask them about that. But yes, they were some thematic about the issue.
Okay, and do you think that maybe a good start for us here would be to have that conversation with the members of that committee and to get their perspective of what absolutely has to be done to deal with the situation in the units? I mean, there's absolutely no excuse to have residents from our city come before city council and to have they're being dealt with in a unfeeling manner, and talking on their cell phones and being rude and the kind, and to the extent that's going on, I think that's very unfortunate. But I think a good start for us, is my feeling, would be a conversation with the three aldermen who are members of the housing committee. And over the years, I've had, to the extent that they've been in office, and while they've been in office, I've had contact with them. And as I said, the commission's appointments go through them. So, and I think all of them have been at meetings of this commission from time to time. So I think a good starting place for us would be to have a conversation with them, have a frank conversation with them, and basically ask them, what needs to be done and what can the commission do to help with this, because we will want to step in. And I think, the other thing the reason I want to do that is I don't want to duplicate anything or step on any political toes necessarily. But I want to, at the same time, be able to communicate to them that this is something that's really, really of concern to members of this commission. I haven't heard a single member of the commission this evening say, "Oh no, we shouldn't be doing that." And we've got both of our staff people here as well, both in terms of Ms. Hopkins and Judge Barber, that I think would be supportive of our having that conversation with the three members of the housing committee. And then what we do is we'll see where we go from there. I think we'll get some pretty frank assessments from those members, and I think they'll be receptive. Knowing the three of them, they'll be receptive to the commission becoming involved. We just want to get a sense of direction from those elected members of the committee as a starting point. Is that something that you would find to be useful, Tony?
I think that's a good idea. I think if you work hand in hand with them, I think you can build more power to get more things done. So I
Okay.
think that would start. Yes.
Okay.
That'd be a good start. And also to find out, Mike, why things haven't happened. I mean, in addition to find out the pattern of issues that have been happening over time, what are the barriers to immediate action for these issues?
The other
Yeah.
thing I think would be important is when we start to work on our outreach plan is taking a look at, how are we showing up in communities, especially these communities that we know are struggling. And I think that's something that we'll need to look at our calendar, see, when there's fairs and that kind of thing, how can we go and participate in those and talk to residents, because that is something that we don't have relationships there.
I agree, but before we make any promises, we probably need to do some homework.
Well, that is the homework, is meeting residents.
Whatever homework you do, make sure you're doing it for yourselves. Don't let anybody give you homework that they've done. We always learn to study to show ourselves approved, because you can get information that is kind of skewed and you don't get the proper information. So whatever you do, I just want this city to be a city that we all are proud to live in, not just some of us, but all of us. And when my neighbors are living like that, it affects me and it affects you. And I continue to happen.
Okay, I don't think this really needs to be subject to a vote. I don't hear any dissenting opinions, and commissioners are pretty quick to speak out if they're not hearing what they think ought to be said or heard. I'm going to start the process off by communicating with Alderman Gay, who I believe is chair of the committee. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
He's chair of the Housing Committee. He's currently chair.
Yes.
I always like to go to the committee chair first and lay out what we've heard tonight, have a suggestion, and then see what support we get from that end. And I'm hopeful that we will have support from that committee, because I do suspect from things that I've picked up, things I've heard over the years, that committee has been very sympathetic to the problems, and would probably be happy to move more quickly than has been implemented in the past. But if you're a member of city council, you have to remember the rule of 5. That's a majority of the council. And if you don't have 5 votes, things don't happen. And so what ultimately needs to be done, on one question I would have for Alderman Gay is, how do you get around to getting the 5 votes? How to get past the rule of 5?
How about we members to go and stay in some of those houses for 2 days, and I guarantee you will get the vote.
Well, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll ask them that.
Yeah, good idea.
I think what I'd hear from them is that's fine, but I want the entire membership of the Human Relations Commission to join us as well.
We got enough to put all the.
Well, again, thank you. Thank you for staying. And if you'd like, you can stay for as much of the meeting as you like. This is an open session. All of our commission meetings are open. We don't hide anything. So again, you're free to join us. We are going to have a number of different conversations about things I think you might be interested in, including we're looking at some goals for the coming year. But I think we've already got one right now. I think there's clear the commission really wants to do something about that. Thinking back to that other real town hall meeting that we had years ago. It was held at Asbury United Methodist Church. We had about 300 people there, including Mayor Ellen Moyer at the time. And similar stories to what you just shared. This is more than a decade ago. Similar stories. The meeting went on till 2 o'clock in the morning. Remember that, Helen? I think you were part of that one you had. 2 o'clock in the morning, we were still there. We had so many people wanting to testify. Had an impact. There was a new director of the Housing Authority shortly thereafter. I think the mayor made a decision that there had to be a change. But in any case, we're going to go about this, I think, along the lines which we've just talked about. And we'll start with with Alderman Gay and with Alderman Gay's two colleagues, Alderwoman Tierney and Alderman Schandelmeyer. And we'll see where we go from there.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Mike, can I ask a question? I'm not sure I understood. I would recommend you ask Chairman Gay and perhaps the other members of that committee if they could join us at the next meeting.
Yeah, I will ask that.
Okay.
I will ask and have them share with us, see if they're available. Alderman Gay has joined our meetings from time to time. I mean, he just sort of pops on. And Alderman Schandelmeyer has spoken to the.
I know that.
And Alderman Tierney is very sympathetic with us. I know that.
I know her well too.
Yeah.
So, and Mike, could I just make a recommendation too?
Sure.
Their meeting meets on the third Monday of each month at 6:30. It's on Zoom. And I think it would be good if we all tried to get to that next meeting to watch their meeting, because the other piece of this is, while we want their support, they want our support. So we really need to try and understand what's going on there. Because, we're on one piece of this, but everything they're working on is related to this pretty much.
Okay, so they meet on the third Monday of the month.
Third Monday of each month at 6:30.
Okay. I think it's a good suggestion. In fact, it is a good suggestion, and I will inquire to that effect if they would find it useful.
It's on the website. Yeah, it's on the website.
For us to be there. Yeah,
Can I just clarify something? Because
yeah, sure, Tricia.
I'm not sure that it is in fact on Zoom. The committees of the council meet in person.
Oh, when I say Zoom, you're right. I think I've watched it on the YouTube channel and on Facebook.
Yeah, because it's a public meeting.
Yeah.
They're recorded and they're broadcast either on the city's Facebook page or you can watch it on the city's YouTube channel. But
they meet at City Hall.
They actually conduct their meetings in person.
Yeah.
At City Hall.
At City Hall in the council chambers.
Well, we can.
So the difference is boards and commissions, of which the Human Relations Commission is one, are all virtual and have remained virtual.
Right.
The committees of the council went back into in-person meetings as well as the city council after the pandemic quarantine, after we came out of closed buildings for the pandemic.
Thank you for that.
But presumably it's an open meeting.
So I just want to make sure it's not going to be interactive like this, with the Zoom setting, because they're live. It's simply the advantage of watching watching it. The committees.
The committees are open meetings, I bet, too.
They're open meetings, but they're not public comment meetings. I just want to be real clear about the difference between the two.
I understand, but you can sit and listen, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Thought so.
Okay. Well, it's very possible that what I'll seek is something other than a formal time during the time in which they're meeting, because you're right. It isn't there's no public time in which you can get up and offer something. So I think
there's no time set aside for public comment like there's the city council.
Now, 3 members of council though could meet with members of the Human Relations Commission without it being a formal meeting. Can we do that?
Correct. It
Right.
would not be considered a quorum.
Okay, all right.
Um,
So we would just have a conversation with them individually.
Yes, and it's important you make that distinction because there are very clear laws around public meetings and the Open Meetings Act's requirements in terms of how you conduct that.
Yes, yeah, I'm pretty familiar with that. It's very, very hard to go into executive session unless you have very compelling reasons. In the years I've been on the commission, I can't remember a single case in which we went into executive session.
So
Yeah,
the
right.
Open Meetings Act, and I can share that with all commission members or through Mike. The Open Meetings Law is really clear about what constitutes closed session. And so if you're discussing a person's particular or private information, that would qualify as closing a meeting. But under the Open Meetings Law, if you're going to discuss something like that, you have to publish your agenda ahead of time and indicate when you're going to go into closed session and when you're going to go back out of closed session.
But is there a barrier, Tricia, from us inviting, Chairman Gay and others that might want to participate, just to have a discussion? Not on it. We don't
That's
want. I don't.
That's like constituents reaching out and you're
Yeah.
members
Yeah.
of a
Yeah.
board.
Yeah, we're not. I mean, we're not interested in,
No, we've
individual specific information.
We've done that before. I mean, we did that before when we had Alderman Schandelmeyer and then Alderman Savage both address on that one piece of legislation. That's fine.
I mean, I've been thinking about
problem.
this, and I've been thinking about this, Mike, in terms of how to give you some guidance. And I'm just going to say it because I don't know for sure if it would reach this level, but I would be cautious or careful about sharing individuals' stories and attaching their names to it and or saying it in such a way there's no possible way that you could assume it would belong to so and so. So I think it's important that you protect the privacy of individuals who have provided you information. Like if you go out in the community and you're having your direct relationships with people who have experiences, I think it's important that you consider that is their personal story and to what degree you share that information without that being that individual's direct sharing. And so that's my only thought around the caution of that. Again, I could share through Mike the Open Meetings Law, the frequently asked questions around that. We have a lot of practice at this with the city. I sit on other boards and commissions. I sit on the Police and Fire Pension Commission. There's points at which we have public information. There are points at which we go into executive session to discuss more detailed information that's not permissible or open under the Act.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have a problem with this. I think we can certainly have, at least I can initiate a meeting with members of the committee and then extend an invitation for them to come to discuss this in greater detail at a regular meeting of the commission. They're available.
Yeah, I just had to say that out loud because I thought that was important.
Okay.
I'm not suggesting anybody.
Yeah.
Would
I don't
do
have
that.
any interest in personal information.
Sure
what I'd
knew
like
and
to
understood it.
Yeah, but what I'd like to hear about are the persistent problems in the public housing and what's being done about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important also on the education side to know and understand ownership. Because we're not just talking, we're talking, yes, the location may be the city, but we're talking about federal housing units. So
yeah.
So I just
Some are and some aren't. Am I right, Tricia?
Yeah,
I mean,
we're talking about more than that too. We're talking about the subsidized, we're talking about the public-private stuff.
Right.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, but it's
Section 8.
understanding the intersection of government agencies. I guess that's what I'm suggesting here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'd like to move us along here on our agenda. I think I've got a direction in terms of how to follow on this. I'd like to ask Claudia if she has a report for us this evening? Anything you'd like to report?
None at this time. No staff liaison report. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. In terms of my report, I was invited by the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights to attend a Zoom, or it was actually a Google Meets discussion among the coordinators of fair housing in the various jurisdictions of Maryland. And I think they picked me because the Human Relations Commission has statutory responsibility within the city for it. And I did join them for that talk. Just give you a very brief summary of it. I guess the main purpose of the meeting, as terms of how it came out, is that the Maryland Commission wanted to try to identify ways in which the various units around the state that deal with fair housing can collaborate more effectively. How some of the questions that they looked at was, how do we make sure that fair housing laws are consistently applied across jurisdictions, that you don't have some jurisdictions enforcing it in different ways that aren't consistent with the laws. And what avenues do we have to share information with collegial organizations, as well as share resources so that we become better partners in this effort. Some of the specific they talked to some degree on two issues. One dealt with the issue of source of income legislation, which of course is on the books in the city of Annapolis. I think it's on the books in the county. I'm not sure if it's on the books statewide or not. I know there have been efforts made to do it, but the issue that they brought up is that source of income is more than Section 8, more than the housing housing types of things that people get that help to reduce their housing costs, the housing vouchers. And that one caught me by surprise, because I always thought that's pretty much what that was meant when they said source of income. But there was no real elaboration on it. It's the Maryland Commission for Civil Rights just mentioned it. And then they also talked about housing appraisal bias complaints that are very frequently coming in. That in some jurisdictions, housing appraisals are different depending on who the buyer is, and specifically what the buyer's race is. And it's a way of going back to trying to make it difficult for people to move into certain neighborhoods. I had thought that was long gone, but those who were the individual from the commission said, no, this is pretty frequent. They also mentioned that the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights will be doing listening sessions throughout the state, focusing on discrimination broadly, not just in fair housing, but in other areas as well. But they do want to work with the human relations committees and councils in each county. Again, not just in terms of public, not just in terms of fair housing, but other areas of discrimination. What came out of it was that we're going to have more meetings. They want to hold a meeting each quarter. So I'll just simply add that to my collection of jobs here, and want to keep up with it, because I think the State Commission on Civil Rights really has a lot of authority, and they have a lot of prestige. And the fact that they would assign a staff member to coordinate this indicates to me that they want to take it seriously. The second item that I have to share with you tonight is Commissioner Diane Graham, who has served on the commission for 13 years, has resigned from the commission. If I can find it here, I will read the note that she sent to me. She says, "Dear Mike, after a lot of thought, I have decided to resign from the commission. It has been a wonderful experience to be with a group of people dedicated to doing work to make the community a positive place for citizens. I have the utmost respect for you and your years of leadership. Sincerely, Diane Graham." I responded telling her that we would miss her very much and that she had been a very able commissioner. I have also asked, because of the length of her service, I have asked the coordinator of boards and commissions, Hillary Raftovich, to obtain the customary certificate, which will be personally signed by the mayor and all members of city council. And what I'd like to do is to have organize a luncheon for her once I have that material from the city. So I just want to share that with you. We're sorry that we're going to be losing Diane, but she, I think, feels a need to move on. And then finally, I would just like to thank Madeline Harrell from the City of Annapolis TV, who is in the background there. She is helping us with the technology related to these group meetings. So Madeline, I know you're out there. Thank you so much for your help with that. Like to move on to the next item on our agenda, and that's the HRC goals and action plans. And we had at our last session a brainstorming exercise, and that was led by Linda. Linda has prepared, I think, a very comprehensive summary of the things that we talked about. But I'm going to let her take it from here and talk about what she has come up with. It's a really good piece of work. I found this a fascinating document. So Linda, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Mike. And I was reviewing your notes from our brainstorming meeting, and I'm wondering if I did capture everything because there were a couple of things there that not in here, but we can go through it. So, what we talked about at our brainstorming meeting were some of the issues that we have seen while serving on this commission, and what we would like to see as solutions and outcomes, to feel like we're doing the work that we need to be doing. So the next piece of this really, and so what I did was I organized the action plan and I kind of put things in buckets as I saw it, which, I want your feedback on this. It's a draft at this point. And, and if we decide to continue to use this, then it will always just be a living document. But I put it in buckets, kind of the HR commission as a whole, the outreach team, and then the complaints team. And, I kind of just tried to categorize it a little bit. And I think the next steps here are really identifying what does success look like. We've identified a problem. We're looking at what we would like to see as outcomes, and then how will we know that we've actually succeeded? And then the action plan, how will we get this work done? And taking a look at, ownership of getting this work done as well. We meet once a month. There's things that we can get done in this meeting. Sometimes I feel like, there may be more urgency to things. And so would the outreach committee and the complaints committee, would it make sense for them to maybe meet in between? But how do we get this work done? So I guess I'm proposing tonight just to kind of go through this. It seems a little tedious to talk about, and I can pull it up. I can share my screen if you'd like, Mike. I've got it
Yeah,
up on my screen.
that's a real good way of doing it, Linda.
Okay. So I can share my screen and then I'm hoping that we can just talk about what this will look like and getting this
Yeah, I
work
think
done.
what would be a good way of concluding would be to focus on the problem and suggested outcomes. And then at our next meeting, we'll have sort of an assignment for all commissioners to complete the section which says criteria for success. How will we know we have succeeded? And I think that's a good exercise to have. I think tonight, what we want to do is to get the commission's buy-in for what you have written in the categories problems and outcomes. And get folks,
Okay.
if there's disagreement with it, then obviously that's going to,
Okay.
we'll change the criteria for success column. So is that how we were thinking about proceeding?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
I have a comment, if that's okay.
Yes,
Can we-
Rosemary.
Can we, when we look at all of the criteria for success and action plan, are we going to see each bucket as equal? Or are we going to look at each bucket as what are the priorities first going forward?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, it probably does make sense to prioritize,
Yeah.
you know,
Because otherwise, if
Um,
we don't have a priority, then we're going to just be out and doing things with no being spread so thin.
yes,
So that
great.
I love this document. My only question, and you agree with it, we need to focus on what are the priorities.
Yep. Yeah, I love that.
Might I add that these last two columns are probably what the housing people need to get moving in terms of action plan.
Yeah.
Having a criteria for success and having an action plan status and responsibilities for the
Well,
council.
yeah, and when I'm thinking about the action plan for the housing, phase one of our action plan we've just identified is educating ourselves, right? So there's going to be phases that may be something that stays on this action plan for the next year, that we are continuing to educate ourselves, to build relationships with the existing city committee, building relationships with residents, meeting with whoever we feel like we need to meet with to educate ourselves. So that takes time. So I think you're right, Claudia, and I think there's layers of this, definitely. So, and the criteria for success also helps us identify that too, right? So a criteria for success for being an advocate for safe and respectable housing for all residents was going to, one, educate ourselves, two, build relationships, right? So that's going to help us when we know that we have educated ourselves, that we are building relationships. So do we want to then just go through and take a look at this and then maybe prioritize 3 of these right tonight? And just work on those. And if we can work on more, great. But take a look at, we did say somewhere we should always have 3 to 5 goals. So we want to prioritize maybe 3 to 5 of these and start there.
And I'd like to add to that. Maybe we could look at what is the low-hanging fruit? What can we do in the immediate future? Because I think we all agree we need continuing education around what's happening and the laws, etc. So continuing to educate ourselves. I don't think there will ever be an end to that. that's just something that comes with our territory.
Hopefully not. Yes. Agree. Okay. So do you want me just to kind of read them all off quickly and then we can talk about what we see as priority, or does that make
Yeah, and
sense?
if you could, can you increase the print size would be helpful too.
Oh, okay. How's that? That's as big as
Oh,
I
that's
can.
good.
Better. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, thanks.
That's
Okay.
good. Yeah.
So, the first problem that we talked about was the fact that we feel like the HRC role is not publicized well, and the public does not understand who we are and that they can seek our support. I also put under there, find and bridge gaps of all ages, because I feel like that's all kind of related. Gaps of all ages, gender, race, sexual preference, citizen status, etc. of members in the community. And then the outcome would look like that we members are proactively active and engaged in the community, especially with historically marginalized groups, civic associations, and city council work. For instance, the City Council Committee, Housing and Human Welfare Committee. And then we speak on our work and report back monthly at the HRC meetings on issues we hear about.
Mhm.
The next one was that we need a promotion plan. And I put this separate just because this was actually, does contain information about promotion planning. So we talked about, that the city website is outdated. It has information on it, that's older, including the fact that, whenever I Google the Annapolis Human Relations Committee, an old web page comes up that has an entirely different committee on it. So I know that when you go in through the site, you can usually find our committee, but there's still one out there that's active that has a whole committee. And I linked it in this document. So we talked about actually taking a look at the web page that exists and maybe updating it. Somebody had talked about maybe compiling a video, putting some video on there where we talk about what we do, introducing ourselves. We also will make sure that we're including relevant speakers, and then maybe even promoting that. So promoting our meetings as well.
I have a question about this, Linda. I know that if you go to the Human Relations Commission's web page by clicking on government, city government, and there's a listing of boards and commissions. You scroll down, click on the Human Relations Commission, and the page that comes up there is pretty accurate for the most part. Are you saying that if you use the search function and search on Human Relations Commission, that you get something completely different?
This is the page I'm talking about, is this page. And if you look here, the member information is old.
Very old. Well, that should not be. Is that the way the current page looks if you go to us? Because that I have provided Hillary with updated information in terms of our book. Yeah, okay, let's just go down to Human Relations Commission. Click on Human Relations, listen, see what comes up.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, that I think when you go through the web page, it's okay. But when you Google Annapolis Human Relations, and see, it's not downloading right now. I don't know why. Oh, here it is.
Okay. Oh, here it is. Okay, let's just see what they have.
Well,
Here's the
if you
member one.
Google, you're going to get
Okay, there you
old
go.
pages.
Yeah, there
Right.
you go.
You
There you
would
go.
get old pages, just like if you do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, but you can actually take them down.
Mhm.
So
yeah.
can also just take them down. You can delete them. So that's
Okay.
why I linked it in this document, so you would see
So
it.
Linda, either Claudia or me, we can reach
Okay.
out to our webmaster
Yep.
and ask her to take a look at that and just remove those pages or
Okay.
else explain why that might be happening.
Do you have this? You have this document. Mike sent this document, so you'll see this link here where it says old pages are deleted. That
Okay.
links right to that page.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, because I know that the page was recently updated because each year
Right.
I get at least once a year, usually twice a year, I get from Hillary a request to provide updated information about commissioners, and I just routinely give that to her.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
good.
we saw it. We
I would
saw
have
it.
been alarmed if it had been the one that you get by going through, the one I said earlier.
Gotcha.
That would have alarmed me. But there was
But
there is a
it's
good idea.
important
I think,
because lots of people Google. So
Yeah.
when, I Google, that's what I do. I Google
Yeah.
who are the human relations committee members.
yeah, we used to have I have to look at the page again. We used to have a video on there. We had
That
members of
page,
the commission.
yeah,
I'm not sure if that's
there
on
was
the
one.
current page or not. I'll have to take a look at that because if not, I think it would be nice for us to have a video.
So another problem that we talked about was the 2040 plan. Understanding what's in it, if the issues that we had suggested are in the 2040 plan.
Okay, could you get to that on the screen, Linda?
It is on the screen.
Yeah, but not on mine.
Not on mine either. Yeah.
It's on,
That's right here.
it's on mine.
Yeah, it's right here.
Oh, there it is, right there. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, I see it.
And then the housing issues that we are hearing about, how to address those. Here I just put hold a town hall because that's what we
Yeah.
talked about, so we can
Yeah.
update that. The hate crimes process.
Yeah, one change I'd like to recommend there, Linda, is to say hate crimes / bias incidents.
Okay,
They are very separate, and they have to be dealt with differently by the police.
okay. So, talking about, again, that's another phased approach, right? Again, getting us training on these things. So that's what the outcomes were looking like. And then this was the part about the inclusion training, taking a look at inclusion training for our commission and maybe all commissions, which was a discussion, that we've had with
Yeah,
Trisha and Claudia.
So do you want me to comment on that now,
yes,
since we're on it?
Yes.
So we have a trainer arranged to provide inclusion training, Inclusion Plus, it's going to be called, it Beyond the Basics.
Thanks.
And so they're going to have we're going to have both in-person and virtual training. So I think it'll be really easy. We can give you the dates of the virtual training so commissioners can join that and participate in that as well. We've talked about also doing a recording of that so that it can be accessed later on when people maybe they weren't able to be there or the like. We would prefer that people are there and interactive, but we recognize that we have employees that have shift work, et cetera, and we don't want to miss that opportunity. We're happy to blend commission members into that. And then you're already aware that I had a conversation regarding hate crimes
Mhm.
with Rhonda McCoy, and she's reaching out to the Attorney General's office to have training with them.
Okay.
So I had a meeting with her today, but we all had to get off before I had a chance to talk to her about this. So I will follow up with her.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Very good.
And did you say you do have dates for the Inclusion Plus training?
Yeah, and I'll share them.
Okay.
We already have a trainer. We already have reviewed the outline of the training, and we have dates and locations already.
Oh, awesome.
Very good.
Definitely. So then those were all kind of in the bucket of the HR commission. And then the ones that I had under the outreach committee, or do we call it committee or team?
Committee, I believe,
It's
both
committee.
compliance and outreach committees.
So we talked about how the responsibilities of the outreach committee maybe need to be defined or redefined post-pandemic, right? And that an outcome of that would be to make a plan for the outreach committee and a schedule for potential events they could participate in or meetings, with some of the different groups that we've identified we need to do outreach with. We also talked about again, and this actually I was a little unclear because there's outreach committee and then there's just in general. But I put in here that the public does not understand what the HR commission does. So I kind of put underneath the outreach committee here as well. And then, participating in different community events would be an outcome of that. So I'm realizing as I'm speaking to you that it's a little redundant because I have that up top too as HR commission bucket. And any comment on that?
I don't see a problem in redundancy. I agree with the recommendations.
Okay. And then the complaints committee, the couple of things that we identified with that go under complaints was that the complaint process online was not necessarily clear with how complaints are handled, that we'd like to be more transparent and define that process. And then also the form needed to be updated. So I know at our last meeting, we talked about all the commissioners would take a look at that form and give feedback on it so that we could get it updated. So that was the other piece of the complaints committee that I put under.
Yeah, and I will add that I did get a response on that from one commissioner. Our Commissioner Williams made a suggestion for adding some things to the form that very easy to do. And I think that basically will make it clear to people about what the purpose of the form is.
Okay.
And why it's important to people it's necessary for people to fill it out.
And I had notes from when we first met on that and talked about it. And so I put some of those in here just to capture it in here. But I know that we talked about that if somebody was making a complaint that we should be able tech could set up something so that when they put in the address, it will identify if they're actually city or county. And if they are county, then that would just send them to the county HR commission webpage. So I just put some of those notes in here as well.
Yeah, that would be a useful thing. I mean, each time we do very carefully check that the person is in the city rather than the county. And sometimes it comes down to, I can remember one case in which we took up a complaint because the establishment against whom the complaint was filed was on the right side of the street. I mean, that's what it came down to. The city was one side, and the county was the other side. If it'd been on the other side of the street, we wouldn't have had jurisdiction. So I think having something like that would be, I think, very helpful if there's a way of doing that.
So we're in our IT department, we have our GIS folks. And I know that Sean has done an incredible amount of work around this. And I want to say there is an interactive tool already. I just need to verify that.
Yeah, I think the idea came from you.
I
So
think so.
I think we talked about it, and then I remember you saying, I think we could do this. So yeah, so it's here, so we don't forget it, and we'll find, hopefully we'll find out if we can or not, but
Yeah.
yeah, good. And then the last thing I had down for the complaints committee, was when any of us see or hear a problem or issue, that we can actually outreach to people ourselves and ask them if they want support. So I just remember when we were talking about that, there were 3 of us on the call last time that recognized that we'd heard things about housing going on. And, we talked about that we actually should be proactive when we hear things, that we should reach out. So that may be outreach, that may be just overall. So I probably I feel like I'm needing a little bit of help in the buckets here. And then also, what we feel like would be priority here.
One other thing too, in terms of the complaints process, I think it would be good to have a short summary of the process that the complaints committee uses, so people at least aware of what that process is. We do have a full document on this, which I distribute to all commissioners. It'll be in your commission packet that you received years ago. Or if you really like to see it, I can send it by email. It was written by one of our former commissioners, Richard Commerce, and he was a lawyer. And as a result, the official complaints procedure that we have goes on for at least 10 to some pages, on and on and on. It can be summarized in just a few sentences. And so what I would propose to do is that I work with Helen in coming up with a revised, not a revised, but a shortened version of the complaints process, which basically tells people from the time you fill out the form, this is what's going to happen.
Right.
And so people will at least understand it without going through, some of the detail that's in the full document, to which we've not always had to make any reference. So I think that would be a good addition, and then we can have that on the website. Put that on the website.
Yep. Yeah, that's what we talked about, making it more transparent so that it was clear. I think we talked about that last week, that the process should be on the website so people understood that you will receive a call back and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'll just put in here the process and I'll update that.
Mike, I got to hop out for another obligation here in a couple minutes. But a couple quick points. One is, I think that the last item you have in the bucket of complaints committee about hear something, say something, I think that might even be better as for the commission as a whole, not just the.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then second, I think before we do a PR plan for so folks know more about us, I think the most important thing we could do, in my view, in addition to that, would be to take a couple of issues, perhaps even the conditions in public housing, and make those conditions better. And I think that would be the best way for people to get to know us by accomplishment. And in addition, not in lieu of the other plans.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is true. And we need to get to know people that live in public and subsidized housing too. So it works both ways. And we also know that that's going to take time for us to have any kind of success. So I agree. And I'd like to see us maybe show up quarterly at an event. There's different community fairs and at community centers, that kind of thing. So perhaps if we can take a look at some of the HACA schedules or city schedules or HACA, however you say that, we could show up at some of those events, is what I'm
That'd be a
thinking.
good idea.
Yeah,
Thanks, everybody.
thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
So do we want to prioritize a few of these and focus in on them? And the overall spreadsheet Mike sent out with the agenda, if you want to open it on your computer, you should be able, then you can kind of scroll and view it larger if you need to and scroll through. It's hard to do these kinds of things on a screen in any engaging way. Do we want to choose like one for each? One for Human Relations Commission overall, one for the Outreach Committee, and one for the complaints? I mean, some of these are already kind of in process, right?
Mhm.
So I think my suggestion with the complaints piece, well, actually, Helen, I don't want to talk anymore. What do you think? Does any of this look like it should be priority for you? For the complaints committee?
Wait a minute.
Oh, actually, I did talk about the process.
I think making it easier for people to file is really predominantly important.
Yeah,
So
Um,
the form,
yeah, and where to do it and how to do it and how to and where to give it in,
yeah. So it's really
that's
both.
that's confusing to some people, so
Yeah.
they need help.
I mean, the
yeah, I
complaint.
would agree
I've
with
got
Helen on
two-
that.
Yeah, and I've got 2 line items here, but it's really all the same. It's the complaint process, right? Making sure that we're defining it on the website and then also making sure that that form is easily accessible for people.
Right.
So it's kind of all the same, even though that's 2 line items.
Right.
I think for the outreach committee, I think Chuck sort of said everything sounded good to him.
Right, but we're talking about prioritizing too.
Yeah,
So as far as the complaints committee goes, for the process and then updating the website, or do we want to identify an action plan, a timeline, responsibilities, and then what success will look like in the end?
Yeah, I think right now we're very good about responding as soon as we get the complaint
yeah.
and contacting the complainant. But yeah, um,
Yeah, but what we have on our list here is to identify what the complaint process is. I think Mike was
Right.
suggesting that should be simplified so that it could be published on the website so people understand what the complaint process is.
Right.
And then making sure that the form is easy for people to use. So we sent out,
Yeah.
Mike, you sent out the form last month after our meeting to everybody, or was it the month before that?
No, it was after, I think, our last month. And
Okay.
I have taken down, again, I do have the very specific suggestion that was made by Jay. And that is to
Right.
begin the form with a short paragraph which says the purpose of this form is to do, is to provide us information that we can correctly proceed with the complaint that you have. So that
Right.
people understand that this is something that has to be submitted. And that was the only suggestion that I received from anyone.
I'm making another one here, and that is after the people submit the form, you get a copy of it in your inbox. your complaint, after you submit your complaint, and you
Okay,
get, the person who submits it gets a copy of it in their inbox. So they have that for record
okay,
that they
Yeah.
submitted it.
That's good.
yeah.
And then, oops, shoot. And include an intro on the form. Okay. So then the action plan there is, Mike, are you going to gather all these? I can cut and paste these from here too and send them to you. And then send it to Trish and then she can take it to tech.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful if you could just compile that and bring those ones to the IT people. They could interest, but I would want us, if you could send it to me as a document in terms of what you have, I will add the suggestions that were made by Jay.
Okay, I'll just cut and paste these bullets, and I'll send
Okay.
them to you in an email.
That'll
Okay,
work.
Yeah, if you can send that in a way that I could actually make changes in terms of the document itself would be helpful. I mean, the way you sent it was via PDF. You can't edit a PDF. You can definitely.
so I use Google Sheets, which is a live document. So you could go into, I can give you access to my Google Sheets and you can go in and edit that yourself.
Okay, that would be perfect.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah, Linda, if you just make sure I have the ability to invite somebody else into that.
Okay. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, but I could just as
I can send
easily.
it to everybody. I can send
Yeah.
it to everybody if you like. Everybody on this call, everybody on the commission can have
Yeah.
access to this. I just sent
Yeah.
PDF. I knew you were sending it out and I know sometimes it's hard for people with getting permissions with Google Sheets,
Yeah.
so I was simplifying it. But at this point too, if you have an issue, you can let me know and we can work it out. Sometimes it's just because somebody else with Gmail is using your machine or something like that.
I mean, I would like to make just one comment in terms of the outreach committee, if you're looking for a priority. And I know, Linda, that you and Chuck really share that point of view, and that is presenting in the community, being present in the community at events or meetings, and listen, educate the public on the HRC's responsibilities. I think that would be a very valuable goal for us to have, looking for opportunities to attend community meetings that would be consistent with some of the work of the Human Relations Commission. So that would be my selected priority for the outreach committee.
And I agree with you, Mike. I'm on the outreach committee in case anybody needs to know, but I think we kind of lost our way after COVID, because before COVID, the outreach committee we would have a table at Hispanic Heritage Month activities. There were we also were, I forget what the event was, but Ida Mae and I staffed a table down at the Susan Campbell Park for,
Nice.
I forget what the event was. But I think it's important for us to know what is upcoming in the community so that we can
Yeah.
go back to having our table and having the brochures and talking about what we do.
Agree. I'm also on the outreach committee, so I'm really glad to hear that you all did that because I didn't know that. So,
Yep.
I knew that COVID definitely changed things. But I was not really clear on what was happening before that. So that's good to
Yeah.
hear. So as far as action plan goes, Rosemary, I would love to get together for coffee or lunch with you before our next meeting, and maybe you and I can brainstorm on some stuff. And maybe we'll call Chuck too and see if he wants to do that.
I think that's a great idea. I don't work locally. I work in DC.
Right.
So we can
Yeah.
we can talk offline with what will work.
Perfect. Perfect. Is there anybody else on the outreach committee?
I'm ex officio on both the outreach and complaints committees.
Okay.
But I'm saying in terms of other people who are on the committee, me go with, I've got a list here somewhere of all of the commissioners.
Item A is on it.
Yeah, item A is on it. She's on outreach. Trying to remember. Well, don't seem to have that document.
The other thing that we used to do while Mike's looking for the document is that the outreach committee from time to time, when we met in person, we would meet earlier than the total commission meeting. For instance,
Yep.
we would meet like at 6 o'clock and
Right,
talk
gotcha.
about what we knew what was coming up in the community.
Gotcha. And then report into the commission meeting.
Correct.
Perfect.
Now, the current outreach committee was a piece of people you just mentioned. It would be Chuck is chair, Linda is a member of it. I'm ex officio member of it, and I think and item A Sims also is a member of it. So those
And
are
Rosemary.
and Rosemary, yes,
Okay.
and Rosemary as well.
Gotcha. Okay. So we have a priority for the outreach committee. And we also probably should take a look at the responsibilities of the outreach committee because we talked about last meeting, just trying to redefine that a little bit too. So that can be part of our discussion as well. And then as far as the work for the Human Relations Commission, is there any thought process here on what looks like as priority?
Well, I think the low hanging fruit is the website.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we really need to have a consistently updated website. I mean, websites are very good for providing people with basic information. So someone can find out about the information by going to one source. And so I think to the extent to which we use that web page, we really don't have a site, we got a page. But the city has been really good about loading things onto the page.
So what's our action plan there, Mike, as far as what our follow-up here is on the webpage and who's responsible for that?
Well, I think there's a variety of individuals who would be responsible. I think we want to look at what needs to be added to the website, what additional information should be added. I think I would like to see us take a look and see if that video that we used to have a video on there. I think it's a good
it's
idea.
there. It's still there.
It's still there. I would just keep it.
Yeah,
It was
I'm sure I saw
it was good. And then other than that, just making sure, periodically reviewing it to make sure that the information is on there is still desired in terms of access. We have one thing that's on the website, which I question whether we really need it, but it was requested by a member of the city council that it be put on our website. And so I don't want to take it off without that person's approval. If it's still there.
I think the video's on the old page.
I was just about to say, I think the video's on the old page. I was just looking to see.
Okay,
Yeah, and it's
well-
on the specific, the
Yeah.
names. The names are videos, links to, if you click on any of those names, they're video, they're
There it
clicks
is.
to the YouTube page.
Yep, there it is. Oop, there's the
Nice,
video.
nice shot, Mike.
Yeah, I was gonna say how they get that one. Man, that's worse than a driver's license photograph. Uh, Well, that just tells me we have to
That's
do.
on the old page.
That's right. Well, it'll stay old. Um,
But also on each individual members, there's a YouTube link for all of those members if you click on them as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, wow.
yeah,
Gotcha.
well,
I don't
think-
want to
think-
do that
I,
with
I think
us.
I think we have to we have to redo the videos a little bit. I mean, we don't have all of the commissioners currently represented.
And that is by choice.
Trisha, was it you that suggested something about video on the webpage? I'm wondering, did you have something in mind? I kind of feel like that you suggested that last time.
I did. I think it's helpful for people that have different levels of literacy
Mhm.
to have somebody that is describing the work of the commission.
Yeah,
And then it's also just more accessible to people. It would be helpful as well, maybe to have that in Spanish as well. And we already had talked about the form being in Spanish.
yep. Perfect. Okay.
Well, I'll just we'll just sort of cut back on the video unless we can think of a way of doing it. The way we did it last time, every commissioner was asked to be videotaped. I think most of them did. And that's why it comes across the way it looks this way, because you have somebody who's talking about their role on the commission. We can do the same thing again, but I think that we should definitely have a new video, because those are pretty old.
I mean, one thing you can do for the video is it can provide, maybe like a PowerPoint or something where it slides and it's describing what you do and it's information, but it's got a voiceover, right? You have somebody reading it so that if an individual cannot read it or it doesn't have the confidence to read it, they can hear somebody describe it as well.
Yeah.
And then in that, making sure that if they need assistance in filling out the form, that you direct them to human resources, because that is something we do and would do for someone.
Yeah.
Yep. Right, so that's part of the defining that process too. That's what we
Right.
talked about last time, that process is on the
So,
page, because you talked about
another,
that
oh, I'm
you
sorry.
could walk down.
Sorry, Linda, I thought you were done.
okay.
Sorry, didn't mean to talk over
Sorry.
you.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm wondering, when we do these kinds of videos or PowerPoint with a voice, I mean, is that saying that we're making this information 508 compliant as well?
That is the goal.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing is that on the city's website, you can literally translate. There's a location on the website that's like up in the upper right-hand corner, or I believe is where it's located. We had talked when we had, oh, forgive me, I can't remember his name, from CASA, who was talking about the Spanish community's access to services at the city.
Oh, that was Gabriel Rodriguez.
That's who that was. And so there is a way to translate into different languages the website.
Is that under accessibility?
It used
No,
to
it's
be
just
in the
the
upper
bottom
right.
right corner where the Google says on your computer, Selección NAR idioma. IDIOM, is that what you're talking about? The Google
Are you looking right at
translator,
this?
or what it says, traductor on Linda's screen?
Oh, I see it. Yeah, right down here. I had the my Zoom camera all right here.
Yeah, it's like underneath. So there are
And you can
many
choose it.
languages.
You can choose the language
Yeah.
and it will translate it.
Mhm.
Okay, so there it is right down here. Okay. But still, if we did a video, it would be nice to have that as well, a Spanish speaking, considering our population and that.
Well, now we're getting our Danish lesson today.
I see that. I'm looking at Pat's name.
On this, Mike, who's gonna work on this? And what's the timeline look like?
When you say this, what are you referring
Well,
to?
updating the webpage, I think we just highlighted that we'd like to see the website get updated.
Right.
We've got the complaints form and the complaints process. We know that needs to be on there, but we're also talking about defining the commission's responsibilities, potentially putting together a video on that. Making sure that the old pages are deleted and potentially even having a Spanish language video.
Well, that's going to involve the coordination between the commission and Claudia and Tricia, who will then take it to the IT folks. So I mean, I can be the person that works on that specific the website. We'll call it the website upgrade.
Okay.
I believe the complaint form was shared among commissioners, so it'd be helpful to get
was.
feedback on the form itself.
Right.
Because that sounded like that was kind of an ask of everyone.
Right.
Yeah,
So I think
it was an ask.
we're going to send it to you.
As I said, Commissioner Williams also did share a suggestion that I will definitely include on my list for changing the form. But other than that, there weren't any other comments about the form. The form's pretty straightforward, but I think it'll benefit by having an introduction to it. I can write that. Linda, did you want us to talk about the priorities, some of the other priorities for the commission? We're looking at 3 of them.
Well, I feel like it's 8:26 right now, so I kind of feel like we got the priorities down. And yeah, I'm not sure that I want to keep anybody any longer on this.
Okay, all right. Do you suggest that we do this at our next meeting? Or
I think we've all kind of got some assignments, right, for next meeting. So
next
we can
meeting,
report in
yeah.
on all that. And then you had suggested that we at next meeting take a look at how would we identify success. So maybe we'll do that with these 3, and well, we've got 3 to 5 priorities basically.
Yeah, I thought we would say, I mean, in terms of the priorities, I agree about keeping it, taking care of the hanging fruit, so to speak, and that's the website. And then you've got 2 priorities, 1 priority each for the complaints committee and for the outreach committee. They have theirs. So that comes to 3. And I would say there are 2 others that I would suggest that we add as sort of omnibus ones. One is the housing issue. I mean, we've got something that came before us this evening to look at, and it's also contained here. And the second one is that we, as a commission, monitor the extent to which the comprehensive plan reflects what the commission is doing. And with respect to that, I know Linda and I both took a look at the plan. Linda did it in a much more systematic way. She actually went through and used a search function to match up some of the priorities that we had suggested for the plan with what is actually in the plan. And I sort of read through it and have got some reaction to that as well. Linda, could you share with us what you found? That's actually on the agenda. It's the next agenda item.
Okay, so I actually just went through, I did a search on the phrase affordable housing. And then I just went through it and looked to see what was in there about affordable housing. And there was a lot, and most of it was things I knew about and great pie and spy aspiration, and I appreciated all of it. But I also just thought, how do we know this will actually happen? And how do we know that this plan doesn't, like many strategic plans, doesn't just get printed and bound up and then put up on a shelf to collect dust? So I just, that's my question with it is, I thought there were great things in it. I did not, the next thing I wanted to do was to look up transportation. And I found out that there's, aspiration to have a big transportation hub at the mall, with shelters and all kinds of things, which I thought was great. And but I didn't really get much further than that. So yeah, so my main question with it was, again, if with all the time and effort that's been put into it, it will just be interesting for us to really keep referring to it and seeing, is this work being done, especially, when there's a new election and we get a new mayor in town, new city council member. So,
Yeah.
because 2040 is as many elections away.
Yeah. Yeah. I was encouraged by their mention on affordable housing, public transportation is sort of a mixed bag. You've reported some of the positive things about it, but there's concerns that some of the things that they raise in there suggested that they combine the county and city services in a way that would focus the transportation more on people who would use buses or other types of transportation to take them to places outside of the city. It would take them to Howard County and things like that, Columbia, and cut back on the extent to which you had buses within the city of Annapolis. And that would be very hard on our lower income population, especially the Latino and African American constituency, if the city did that. And I have not found, I've been looking for anything in there that addressed social divisions or making Annapolis a hate-free city. Those were things that were suggested by Chuck Hurley. I could not find anything in the plan that reflected that. I am going to continue to look through it to see what I can find, but I'm not sure that the plan actually addressed that or not. It might have. Just may not have seen it yet, but I think it's useful for us to the extent to which the work that we're doing is captured somewhere within the plan, because we can always turn to it and say, well, this is what the comprehensive plan found. And so I think to the extent to which we can draw connections between the two, I think would be very, very helpful, because it really boosts our the importance of the issues that we're pushing. And it also provides a linkage with a city document that people put a lot of work into. I mean, a lot of work went into that document. I suspect that city council will make little or no changes. They have I think they had a work session on this already. They had it, I think, back on February 29th, just a few days ago, but I don't think there'll be much of a change. I think it'll be pretty much what you see. But that's in any case, I just think we ought to make better use of the plan, since it's brand new and it provides us a link to a document that's been very heavily used. Those are the only two things I would have in terms of the priorities or comments.
So do you know what the upcoming, when they are voting on it? Do we know that yet, when they're voting on it?
I think they already voted on it. It was voted on.
Claudia, you're nodding. They did vote on it?
Well,
I
they
don't think
had,
we did.
well, I take that back. What they had was they had a public hearing on it.
Yeah,
They had a public hearing on it. So I think that I'm not sure if they actually vote at the public hearing after the public hearing is closed on it, or if it's voted on at a different time. I think they actually vote on it on a different reader. Am I correct on that?
So it's still going in committee. So the 29, when it's in committee,
Yeah,
that means and it's gone to a number of committees.
yeah,
It goes to committee and then they'll make recommendations as to yay or nay.
yeah.
And sometimes even in committee, make recommendations with regard to amendments. So I just trying to find my,
I know they had a public hearing in which the public was invited to come and offer their thoughts. That is
Yeah.
over. That was done. And then there was a work session in which the committees would be working for amendments. That is done. So I think it's probably going to come back to the council for the final
I think
vote.
it's been in special work sessions with the council as well.
Yeah, yeah. So I think
I
it's.
thought I
think
read
vote-
somewhere. I thought I read somewhere, but I could be mistaken, and it could have been like a press account, but that could be wrong as well.
yeah, I don't think they voted on it yet. I think
Yeah.
it is still in committee and yeah, and they just did the public hearing on it. Cause I tried to watch it, but then something weird happened on YouTube,
Yeah.
so.
It's going to pass. I mean, they're not going to turn down the plan after all that work. They may do some tweaking in it, but I don't think the council's got the energy to try a rewrite of it. In fact, I think it'll be very quickly discussed and there'll be unanimous vote, and that'll be the end of it. So do folks have any other comments about the,
I think Rosemary's had her hand up.
oh, I'm sorry, Rosemary. I always
No,
I always miss those things.
That's okay. That's okay. You put your head down just as I was clicking. I do need to drop off. I'm sorry.
Me too. Yeah, I do
did-
too.
Thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Next time,
Thank you.
Okay.
Linda will be in touch.
We'll be in touch. Yeah, Mike, I
Okay,
need to go as well.
Okay, all right, we're going to, I think we will adjourn the meeting. Just one other thing. Forget that. We will, at our next meeting, we will take up the criteria for success and then the action plan. Is that what, we're going to talk about, but I guess with a focus on the criteria for success. Is that right? Okay. Okay, and the only thing that I was going to talk about that I think we can just simply put off on, and that's commission vacancies. And I don't have anything dramatic there, but I just wanted to share one thing with you, just one thing, and that is city council is.
What?
Can you hold on one second?
Lost you.
After I left your house, and hey, Cindy, I'm on a call right now with Zoom, so can you call back in about 10 minutes? Okay.
Can't believe I did that.
Okay, that was just too loud. It was really loud. With respect to the vacancies, the city council has before it a proposed ordinance that would allow the committees of the council to nominate individuals for the boards and commissions. I don't know the details of it, of how that would work, but I think it's something that could benefit all of the commissions in the city. Every single commission in the city is troubled with vacancies. And right now we have 5 vacancies in a 15-member commission. So I'm going to be watching that very carefully in terms of what happens with that particular proposal. I don't know whether or not it's a way of not going through the mayor's office, but rather, or whether it's just providing the ability of members of council to nominate people. I don't know that any more details than that. I do know that citywide there is an issue with vacancies on boards and commissions. We're not the only ones. All of them are affected by it. So that's all I had to report on that. And so I think that completes our agenda for this evening. I would just like to thank Madeline Harrell for hanging in with us. It is now 8:40 p.m. So I think we can adjourn unless there's any other business folks have.
Oh.
Yeah, Jay. Oh, just waving goodbye.
Just
Okay,
waving.
I can see. Thank you.
Bye.
My thanks to all of you. For those who had to leave early, same thing. We continue to do good work.